I'm Paul Doherty. I have been involved in science for a long time because I just wanted to know how the world worked. And that meant I had to learn how the world worked, and that meant I delved into science, because science is a way of finding out how the world works. And while I've been doing that, scientists have made discoveries that have just changed the world. I mean, without the discoveries on the Green Revolution, many billions of people would have starved now. And without the discoveries about solid-state physics, you wouldn't have a phone in your pocket that was a phenomenal camera, video camera, a connection device to the world. There's more power in the computer chips in your camera than there was in the Apollo spacecraft, which I worked on actually. So I've had this wonderful journey of personal learning going along with the same time that science is making these great strides to make life better for everyone. Well, it turns out thinking is really important to get through life. And what science is really, it's a way of thinking where you ask for evidence, you do experiments, you find the answers to questions by doing them yourself. You don't just give in to authority, you question everything. And that's just, I think, a great way to find the truth, to find out what's really going on. Do it yourself. When I went to college to become a scientist. And while I was there, I took up mountain climbing. And I would go climb a mountain and see something beautiful. And then I would bring people to show them, to share with them the beauty that I found. And after doing that week after week after week, I realized inside of me that in addition to being a scientist, I was actually a teacher. And so I actually changed my career path. And instead of being a research scientist, I became a university scientist, because in a university you do research, you do teaching, you publish. And then I came to the Exploratorium, and that boosted my teaching even more. But I'm passionate about teaching and about science teaching. I came to a physics conference in San Francisco in the 1970s, and they had their evening event at the Exploratorium, and I came in, and my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe how good a place this was. And I went from exhibit to exhibit, and I thought, wow, what a place to learn physics. And then I got a sabbatical at the university that let me go away for a year, and I chose the Exploratorium. So I came here for a year, and I got to teach here, and I found this is the best place to teach science in the world. And so I actually left the university, I abandoned tenure, and came here and started teaching. And that was this is my 32nd summer for teaching. And it's been fun. How did I learn to be a teacher? I watched my teachers, and I paid attention. And I said, oh, I think that was a very effective technique that teacher just used. I think I'll adapt that myself. And so I learned from I had many teachers, and I chose the best parts of all of them, I hope. And one of the things that I loved to do whenever I was learning something new is to make it real, to see real images or the real stuff. And that's why I fell in love with the Exploratorium. When you come here, you see the real phenomena of science. We make it real for you. And in seeing the real phenomena, you remember questions you've always had. And maybe we'll give you the chance. Maybe we've made the exhibit good enough that you have the chance to do the experiment right there and answer your own question. That would be the best. 2 days ago, we were studying the spectrum of light. And a question came up about the spectrum of light at one exhibit. And another exhibit answered that question, and I knew where it was. So the first thing I did was I said, that's a great question. Let's go look at the answer. And I walked them over to a different exhibit and let them see, and said, the one question I ask at all the exhibits, what do you see? Now, I knew that the answer to the question that they just asked, that they would see the answer in this exhibit. But I didn't tell it to them. I let them see it themselves, and they get a joy in their heart. oh, I just saw the answer myself, and they start sharing it with each other, and that just makes my day very happy. The philosophy of the Teacher Institute is learn how to learn. And it's our job to bring you, oh, high school science teacher, at the end of a long semester, you're tired, you're exhausted, and to bring you in and feed you well, give you a fun, interesting experience, and remind you how much fun it is to learn, to have guides to guide you through the hard parts in learning, guides who take you to interesting places and have you interact with the real phenomena of science so you get inspired to ask the questions you've always had about light and sound and images and anything under the sun. And we may not know the answers. In fact, that's the best situation, is when you ask us something we don't know. We admit it. One year, I had 3 young teachers in my class. And at the end of class, on the last days when I was finding out if they learned something and had a good time, they said, "You're a PhD in physics, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And you are a professor? And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Do you know how many times this summer you said, 'I don't know'?" And I said, "No, I don't know that." And they said, "See, okay, that's one more." And they had been keeping track. And they said that was the most empowering thing they saw the whole year. That here was this person who had studied science their entire life, who could stand up in front of them and admit to not knowing an answer, and then say, "But let's find out. I don't know. Yes, I don't know all the answers, but I know how to find out." Really, what we want to pass on to the students is the technique of science, what science is. All this little bits of stuff like the mass of the Earth and the mass of the sun and the distance from the Earth to the sun, you can find that on your phone in a few seconds. You don't need to memorize that anymore. But how you go about verifying it, that's something you need to know how to do. So one special thing at TI that I look for in the staff, and I try to act as a role model for the staff, is when a teacher asks you for something, you say yes. We are a group of people who say yes, and I love that about us. I really believe in publishing. So I think one of my greatest achievements here was the creation of the Exploratorium Science Snack Book. And that was a book where a bunch of teachers got together and figured out how to recreate the exhibits at the Exploratorium for under $10 in a way that their students could do all the work. And that way, you build this device, and the floor of the Exploratorium, we have to build it to withstand years of abuse. If you're building the under $10 one, if it breaks, you just build it again. And you have the students build it again. They not only get to use it and learn about it, they get to build it, and that's a great skill. So I'm proudest of writing the first Exploratorium Science Snack Book. Keep learning your entire life. For me, to learn a new thing is joyful. And every time one of those teachers points out to me something I've looked at 1,000 times and never seen before, it's like, wow, that's so good. I'm happy for the teacher for being such a good observer of nature. And I'm even happier for me because now I know one more thing I can share with other teachers. And I've learned how to see better myself. So learning is joyful. And I wish I could give examples of that to everybody. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Yeah. No.
How can you leave?
How can I leave? Well, it turns out I'm getting older, and actually teaching 6 contact hours a day of teaching is really hard, and it takes. And when I was 40 years old, that was nothing. I could do that day in and day out for weeks and weeks. But now I'm getting slightly older and slower, so I'm slowing down. So I think it's time to turn it over to the next generation. We are a living organism, yeah. Like a slime mold, maybe? I don't know.
I'm not a scientist,
no.
It's moving, it's changing.
Yeah. It's amorphous. It's hard to squash. You squeeze it one place, it pops up over there, yeah.